sermon is Blessed Motion, and the reading that will lead into it is entitled Blessed Motion by Annie Zylstra. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change and in the ever-rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion, all is change and ever-rolling ocean. All is moving, all is change, though I once believed that there might be somehow something firm beneath my feet. But all is motion, and all is well, for solid ground is just a myth for those who never swim in it. All is moving in blessed change, so the world we know will come and go, and everything will rearrange. So be the ground beneath that sky, tumbling round the by and by. All is change, so am I.
What do we hold on to when the ground beneath us shifts? This is the question I return to again and again when life feels uncertain. When grief shows up at the door uninvited, when plans fall apart, when headlines overwhelm, or when something just doesn't go the way I had hoped. It's the question that echoes in my chest when a season of life ends before I'm ready, or when a new beginning arrives and I don't know how to greet it. What do we hold on to when the ground beneath us shifts? When the job ends, the relationship breaks, the city changes, the world shifts shape. What do we reach for when the steady path dissolves beneath our feet? We are living in a time of deep motion, a time of planetary change, communal upheaval, personal turning points. We are moving through griefs old and new. We are navigating transitions we never expected and holding onto relationships, routines, and rituals that sometimes feel like they're slipping through our fingers. And in the midst of all of that motion, we long for grounding, for something real, for a steady place to land. I used to believe that solid ground was possible. I thought if I could just plan carefully enough, if I could prepare well enough, hold tightly enough, I could secure something unshakable beneath me. But then I discovered the edge of the world. I actually remember the first time it happened, this time quite literally. It was my senior year of high school and my final year in the youth group at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Corvallis, Oregon. And every autumn we would spend a weekend at the Oregon coast, sharing stories and s'mores until the sun went down over the ocean. And one night a group of us decided we wanted to go down to the beach. It was 10, maybe 11 p.m., and the rest of the campsites were silent and empty. We took the winding trail through the beach grass, the boardwalk slowly disintegrating into sand beneath our bare feet, laughing and talking so loudly because we knew there was no one around to make us quiet down. But suddenly, of our own accord, we all fell silent. We had arrived at the top of the trail. on a sand dune that gave way to the shoreline. And we stood in speechless awe of the beauty in front of us. The moon was nearly full, enough that we could see its reflection on the gentle waves. And for one long moment, suspended in time, none of us said a word. We were high schoolers, so that moment was soon broken, as a few of my friends leapt off the path and into the sand dune, shrieking wildly as their feet carried them down to the water. And I followed them down, the cries escaping my body and disappearing into the great nothingness around us. When I got to the bottom of the dune, my lungs burned from the combination of running and shouting. I paused to catch my breath. And exhausted, I gasped for air, looking around as I adjusted from the shift in surroundings from the top of the dune to the water's edge. Besides my small youth group, there were no signs of human life, or even human influence, besides a distant lighthouse and a faraway ship. The sand was smooth, newly washed in with the tide, and the beach grass obscured any houses that could have been lining the shores. And as I fastened my attention on the sound of the waves crashing on the beach, my friends' voices faded into the background. My breath just returning to my tired body caught in my throat as I looked out at the ocean. As far as I could see in the dusty moonlight, the waves of the ocean rolled on. And even though science told me it was just because of the curvature of the earth, at that moment, I was witnessing the edge of the world. I grew up an hour from the Pacific, spending summers and weekends and youth group retreats playing in the freezing waves. But I had never felt before like I was on the edge of the world. I had never felt any urgency to connect with the ocean because it was always there, just an hour's drive from home. Sometimes the most grounding place, the most connecting thing, is something you already know. But it's almost surprising how easy it is to forget that. And that's the paradox, isn't it? We long for something solid when the world is spinning. But sometimes what holds us isn't solid at all. Sometimes it's not a foundation, but a rhythm. A tide, a breath, a memory, a pause, a prayer. Sometimes it's the very motion itself that reminds us we belong. I think there's something deeply freeing in that. The realization that we don't have to resist the change, that we don't have to cling to the shore, that the motion itself might be sacred. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw on many sources as a part of our living tradition, from science and poetry to scripture and personal experience. And in all of those, water in motion, holds an important role. We learn about the ways that dihydrogen monoxide acts in strange ways, clinging on to each other and creeping up trees through xylem cells, vaporizing and melting and precipitating and freezing. We hear the words of the Hebrew prophet Amos calling for justice to roll down like waters. We learn of the Taoist teachings on the river of life. We learn about Jesus walking beside the Sea of Galilee, gathering followers not with doctrine, but with stories told in the rhythm of waves. I've learned a lot from Octavia Butler, too, one of our great prophets. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw from many sources from the world's collective wisdom, but we draw on our own theology and values too. Our faith is built not on creeds, but on covenant, on promises we make and remake, on movement and transformation, on the sacredness of change. As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of motion. Not chaos, not restlessness, but purposeful, faithful, loving motion. Motion towards justice, motion towards compassion, motion toward each other, motion inward and outward and onward. And it's in the motion that we find our interdependence. We learn that we are not alone, that our thriving is bound up in each other's and in the health of the earth, that none of us is truly free until we all are free. It's in the motion that we find liberation, not the kind promised by consumerism or individualism, but the kind that comes through community, through deep listening, through struggle and joy. Octavia Butler tells us that God is change. And I'm here telling you I've learned about change from the water. And water has taught me so much about God. Tsunamis and floods destroy cities, displace families, reshape coastlines. We know that all too well. But we don't blame the water. The water isn't trying to punish us or reward us. It's not moralizing. It simply is. It moves with force, with rhythm, with inevitability. And when water disappears, when droughts leave the land parched, when crops fail and thirst sets in, we don't believe it's because the water has judged us unworthy. We know that water does not withhold out of spite. It simply follows the conditions of the world around it. It responds to what is. If there is a God I believe in, that's a big if. But if there is a God I believe in, it's one that moves like water. Not a being we appease, but a force that we live with. A presence we are a part of. A mystery we are immersed in. Water is life-giving. When it flows freely, when it nourishes, when it is honored and protected, everything changes. Life emerges, green things grow, bodies are healed, spirits are calmed. Our planet is mostly water. Water is always around us, whether we can see it or not. Water is with us when we cry for sorrow and cry for joy. It's with us when we salivate over a delicious meal. It's with us through water balloons and sprinklers in the summer, and hot tea and snowballs in the winter. It's the first thing we know and the last thing we reach for. Water courses through our bodies, all of yours and mine. We would be nothing without water. And I think part of that is why each year so many Unitarian Universalist communities return to the ritual of water communion, bringing waters from places of travel, of transition, of meaning. And we pour them together as a reminder that though our journeys are different, we are connected. That all of our lives, like water, are made to meet. Each drop carries a story. Each offering reflects our interdependence. And together, they become something larger, something we can only create in community. Water doesn't ask us to believe in it. It simply is. And still, it sustains us. Showing up in the real, everyday currents of our lives, in our bodies, in our breath, in the world around us. So this is where the water leads us. If God is change, and our faith is rooted in motion, then we are being invited into a different kind of spiritual grounding. One that moves, one that grows, one that transforms. And isn't that what our time demands? Not a faith that is still, but one that adapts, that moves, that listens. The world is changing. Climate change, political upheaval, rising tides, both literal and metaphorical. And Unitarian Universalism is changing too. We are centering interdependence and equity and transformation. We're embracing change not as a threat, but as a truth, as a calling. To be a Unitarian Universalist today is to be in motion, to trust the water, to go where love leads. So when, not if, but when, the solid ground you believed in crumbles, when the plan changes, when the door closes, when the next step is unclear, listen. You already know what brings you peace. You already know what restores your breath. You already know what calls you home. Trust yourself. Listen deeply. You are not alone. And when you arrive at the edge of the world where the horizon is wide and the wind is strong, may you remember that you are a part of something larger. May you find your place in the great unfolding. May you let the blessed motion carry you. Blessed be.